Hello, my dear students. Welcome to our Reading and Writing Skills class. And for this week, our lesson is all about
At the end of the lesson, the students are expected to achieve the following most essential learning competencies and learning objectives. Last week, we discussed about the first two academic papers, which are book review or article critique and literature review. For this week, we will discuss about research report, project proposal, and position paper. Let's start with research report. According to Oxford Dictionary, research is a systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Also, it is a skill that students can master as it requires writing skills, obtaining information, and posing convincing arguments. The research process cannot be rushed as it takes time. So what is a research report? A research report is a systematic, articulate, and orderly presentation of research work in a written form. It can either be handwritten, typewritten, or computerized. It involves relevant information on the research work carried out. In doing a research report, it requires a good deal of knowledge, imagination, experience, and expertise. It demands a considerable time and money. In addition to this, a research report is an expanded paper that presents interpretations and analysis of a phenomenon based on experiments and previous information so that the readers can better understand it. It is a laborious work produced through formal investigation and scientific inquiry. The following are the different parts of a research report. It starts with a preliminary section. It includes the title page, which tells what, when, and where. It contains an informative title that describes the content of the paper, the name of the authors, addresses or affiliations, and date of submission. The next part is the acknowledgement. It includes only if special help was received from an individual or group. Next is the table of contents, the list of tables, the list of figures, and the abstract. The abstract summarizes the report, including the hypothesis, procedures, and major findings. It briefly presents the context of the study, research questions or objectives, methodology, major findings, conclusions, and sometimes implication. Its length ranges from 100 to 250 words. The next part of the research report is the main body. It includes the introduction, which is the part where research focus is presented by addressing the identified gaps in the topic. It puts the research topic in context and is usually 3 to 5 paragraphs long. It includes the statement of the problem, which is the heart of the research report. The research questions embody the main problem of the research that will be answered later. It also has the significance of the problem and historical background, which comment on why this question merits investigation. The introduction also includes the purpose, which identifies the goal to be gained from a better understanding of the question. The statement of hypothesis is stated in one statement and declares the question which is investigated and the expected results. It also has the assumptions, which explain everything that is assumed in order for the investigation to be undertaken. The introduction also has the limitations. It explains the limitations that may invalidate the study or make it less than accurate. Introduction also includes the definition of terms, which define or clarify any term or concept that is used in the study in a non-traditional manner or in only one of many interpretations. Ethical considerations is also included in the introduction. It discusses the ethical issues related to the study and explains the processes and status of the review. If you're going to make a research proposal, the budget must be included, which outlines and discusses the budget for the study. The proposed timeline must also be included in a research proposal. It outlines the expected schedule for beginning and ending each part of the research project. Aside from the introduction, the main body also includes the review of related literature and analysis of previous research. This part contains a summary and synthesis of all available sources directly related to the study. In a research report, the literature review is divided into two sections: the related concepts and the related studies. The next part is designs of the study. Other formats of research report name this part as the research design or the research methodology. It gives the reader the information necessary to exactly replicate or repeat the study with new data, or if the same raw data were available, the reader should be able to duplicate the results. This part describes how the experiments or tests in the research were conducted. In the designs of the study, it includes the description of research design and research procedures, sources of data, sampling procedures, methods and instruments of data gathering, and statistical treatment. The main body also includes the analysis of data, which describe the patterns observed in the data. It uses tables and figures to help clarify the material when possible. The last part of the main body is the summary and conclusions. This section condenses the previous sections, succinctly presents the results concerning the hypothesis, and suggests what else can be done. It includes the restatement of the problem, the description of procedures, the major findings, which factually describes the data gathered, in the tables and graphs that summarize the collected data. Along with the tables and graphs are the respective interpretations. The flow of the results section should follow the flow of the research questions, problems, or objectives. The next part is conclusions. In the conclusion part, comments about the implication of the findings are presented. It also has the recommendations for further investigation, which provides possible tasks to those who will benefit from the research report. The final part of the research report is the reference section. It contains the different sources used in the study. These may be academic books, journals, and other online sources. Its format depends on the school, teacher, or field of study. The reference section may include the endnotes, which are like footnotes but are located at the back rather than the bottom of each page. It can also have the bibliography or literature cited, which are the bibliographic reference for each of the works cited in the endnotes. Appendix or appendices may also be included in the reference section, which refers to any tables, figures, forms, or other materials that are not totally central to the analysis. The next type of academic writing is a project proposal. It is a highly persuasive and informative document that aims to address a particular problem or issue. It is a bid or offer to initiate a project for an individual or a group. It usually ranges from 1,000 to 2,500 words, depending on the complexity of the project being proposed. So what is a project proposal? A project proposal is a document that facilitates a professional relationship between an organization and outside contributors. Typically, a project proposal is the initial framework for establishing the concept of the project and includes what you want to accomplish, an explanation of objectives, and plans for achieving them. It is common for a project proposal to include a list of activities or tasks that will be associated with the project, illustrate the significance of this specific project idea, and explain the origins of this project. A project proposal is also the marketing document that kicks off a relationship between an organization and outside project stakeholders. Creating a proposal allows an organization to establish a formal, logical presentation to an outside worker or project donor. Proposals are generally drafted during one of the early phases of your project. Therefore, a good project proposal specifies the following. It must have the goals and objectives that the project wants to accomplish. Also, it has a project plan that details how the set goals and objectives will be accomplished. It also includes the financial, human like experts and consultants, and technical sources such as equipment and facilities which are useful in implementing the project. It also includes the budget that specifies how much money is needed and for what purpose it will be spent. Let's study the outline of a project proposal. It includes the first section, which is the project information. This section intends to provide a high-level picture of the project as well as convey the most critical project details. It includes the following section: the name of the organization, the project title, project summary, project timeframe, who prepared the document, attached documentation, and project contacts. The next section of a project proposal is the project summary. The goal of this section is to present the reasons for doing this project as well as stating all of the objectives. In this section in particular, it is very important to write concisely and clearly. Usually, it is composed of 200 to 250 words and highlights only the major points. The project summary includes the project background, which is the section that requires a few succinct sentences that clarify the problem your proposal is tackling. The project objectives, on the other hand, is a section of the proposal to explicitly list the goals that the project is trying to achieve. The next section is the project methodology. This section of a proposal is where you detail the plan for how the objectives mentioned in the previous section will be achieved. This is the first section of the proposal that details the course of action to remedy the problem and is meant to prove that adequate research has been done for this decision. This section is typically broken in three parts. It includes the project approach summary, which includes how the team will be organized, what tools will be used, and how changes will be addressed during execution. The task breakdown and time estimate is the section of the proposal where a detailed project schedule is presented. The next part is the project deliverables. This is where you list out all the deliverables you expect to see after the project is closed. Section 4 of the project proposal is the project risk management. This section is dedicated to managing change during project execution. Clients know that a proposal rarely covers everything that is required to achieve the given project. So, change management techniques are required. This section is broken into two parts. The risk management plan, which is a detailed plan of action to minimize the chance of risk or change during the project life cycle. It also has the risk register, which is a line item list of risk and potential counter efforts that will be used to counterattack these risks. The next section is the project costs. This section is dedicated to estimating the overall cost of the proposed project. It presents the expected income and expenses over a specified time. This section is broken into three parts. The first is the project budget, which should be a detailed line item budget broken up by different project categories such as travel, salary, or supplies. The budget narrative, on the other hand, is a brief list of commentaries on the budget if any further clarification or justification is needed. The next part is the additional financial statements. Some projects, depending on complexity, will require additional financial statements like a profit and loss statement, a tax return, or funding sources. Section 6 of the project proposal is the conclusion. This section intends to be a brief review of all the points already discussed. This is your last chance to win over your audiences, so ensure that you incorporate the most important evidence to receive approval. The last part is the appendix section. This section is dedicated to any additional charts, graphs, images, or reports that were cited in the proposal. Many times, reference material will go into the appendix as it does not naturally fall into the main body of the proposal. The last academic paper that we will study is the position paper. A position paper presents one side of an arguable opinion about an issue. The goal of a position paper is to convince the audience that your opinion is valid and defensible. It is very important to ensure that you are addressing all the sides of the issue and presenting it in a manner that is easy for your audience to understand. Your job is to take one side of the argument and persuade your audience that you have well-founded knowledge of the topic being presented. A position paper is also known as a point of view paper, which is used to claim a one-sided position of a specific issue. This type of paper is used in academics, law, and politics and is usually 1 to 1.5 pages in length. It contains factual arguments to support the one-sided claim or position statement. But this will not limit the paper to present just only the strength, but also the weaknesses of the position paper. A position paper includes the following parts, which are the introduction, the body, which contains the counter-argument and argument, and the conclusion. The introduction part of your position paper introduces the topic, provide background of the topic to explain why it is important, and assert the thesis or your view of the issue. Your introduction has a dual purpose, to indicate both the topic and your approach to it, and to arouse your reader's interest in what you have to say. One effective way of introducing a topic is to place it in context, to supply a kind of backdrop that will put it in perspective. You should discuss the area into which your topic fits and then gradually lead it to your specific field of discussion. The body of your position paper must include the counter-argument and argument. In the counter-argument, it summarizes the counterclaims, provides supporting information for counterclaims, refute the counterclaims, and give evidence for argument. You can generate the counter-arguments by asking yourself what someone who disagrees with you might say about each of the points that you have made or about your position as a whole. Once you have thought up some counter-arguments, consider how you will respond to them. It is usually better to consider 1 or 2 serious counter-arguments in some depth rather than to give a long but superficial list of many different counter-arguments and replies. In the argument part of your position paper, you may assert 3 or more points of your claim, wherein you can give your educated and informed opinion and provide support or proof using more than one source. The last part of the position paper is the conclusion. In this part, you may restate your argument, provide a plan of action, but do not introduce new information. The simplest and most basic conclusion is one that restates the thesis in different words and then discuss its implications. That will be all about our lesson in academic writing.